Good morning and welcome to all of you to our first webinar, The Power of Maritime Technology in the Era of Social Distancing. I'm very pleased to present to you our moderator for this morning, Mr. Martin Medina.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to probably see a lot of people visually. Last time we saw each other probably was like in October last year in our annual meeting, and I'm glad to be with you today. Milaika, thank you for those words and introduction. We want to welcome all our viewers around the globe. I believe we have about 123 people registered, which is great, fantastic. We want to make an impact, not only the Caribbean, but also take the Caribbean to all the continents. So we thank you for being and joining us today in our webinar. Our program will start today with a few words from our Vice President, Mr. Mark Sampson. And then we're also going to have me as the moderator. I'm the timekeeper. I'll probably have you under about an hour to get you back home and back to work as quick as possible. But we have two fantastic presenters today, Nick Chubb and Miles Varghese. They're gonna take us into what's happening out there, what are they seeing, the world is going into and needing as we face this new era of social distancing, of physical distancing. We're also going to be going into a Q&A. At the end of the day, I'll probably have 3 or 4 questions that we're gonna answer, time permitting. I also wanna go through a couple of simple guest items. Let me see, get my screen here fixed. So a couple of things just quickly to respect the audience as well as the speakers. We will keep the audio in mute all this time, but we also want to encourage all of you to start posting your questions, comments, and feedbacks as we go along. And like I said, at the end of the session, we'll try to answer 3 or 4 questions, time permitting. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our Vice President of the Caribbean Shipping Association, Mr. Mark Sampson, who's going to share a few comments, words of wisdom, as we always say, about this event, future to come. Welcome, Mark. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Martin, and welcome to you all from the many time zones represented in this viral space. We are very pleased to see the wide uptake of our webinar invitation. We have considered a topic that is very pertinent to our realities across the region, and as such have invited speakers who are themselves digital innovators and who deal with transformational initiatives that keep our essential industry moving, despite the global disruptor that is the coronavirus pandemic. I use the term disrupted deliberately, as many disruptions serve as catalysts for new and deeper thinking. The laser focus on social distancing and flattening the curve have led us to rethink our business processes. It has made us re-examine our operations and to engage in our traditional work in untraditional ways. Today, we look together at how our objectives of delivering cargo safely into the custody of their receivers can be better streamlined, made more efficient, and altogether transformed by existing and new technology. The significant and often untapped power of technology can only serve us in what many are terming the new normal of social distancing. It's my personal hope that we will come out of this crisis having benefited from the opportunity which is presented to us. Here we all are, the first of our webinar series, where we are examining the power of technology in the era of social distancing. I acknowledge the presence of our President, Juan Carlos Croston, the General Manager and Deputy General Manager of the CSA, and a hard-working secretariat of our very esteemed speakers, Nick Chubb and Miles Varghese.
Did we lose you, Mark?
I think we lost them.
Bear with us. Bear with us. It happens in the movies, so it definitely happens in real life. So give us a minute just to allow Mark to get back.
Zoom is still new for a lot of people too, right?
Right. Yeah.
Please continue with the program, Martina. I think Mark will join us later on, so we can.
Beautiful.
Yes.
All right. Excellent. Look, well, we thank Mark for this, for the introduction. Definitely, social distancing, physical distancing, and any of the sort of fancy words that we use today, really is telling us a few things. There's no surprise when we all talk about, even when we mention the word technology, it immediately takes our minds into thinking distance. I don't know why, but I can tell you that basically today, you go to a big mall and you rarely see somebody. You get your product, you pay for it, out the door, didn't see anybody. Likely you buy online, you don't talk to anybody, you get your product out the door. We also talk about paperless shipping today, which Miles probably is going to talk about that today. We also talk about ships without crew. We also see ports with cranes with no operators. And then we also see trucks with no drivers. The Internet of Things. So basically everything virtually is virtual today. Whether it's COVID-19.
One second. I must apologize to you all. We had a slight power cut and I got shut down.
Don't worry about it, Mark. Finish up. I was getting propped up with this coronavirus thing, but I can wait. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Keep going.
I would just say that we have invited our esteemed speakers, Nick Chubb and Maya Verghese, and about who you will hear more from our moderator. Let me also recognize our new and long-lasting members and our colleagues and friends across the region. Fortunately, technology allows us to connect and exchange with each other in this way. The task is mine to welcome you to this session today, and I do so heartedly. I look forward to this being a power-packed hour of engagement. Thank you.
All right, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for getting back to us. I was saying a lot of stuff that is happening that really does not touch a physical something, a paper, an asset, a crane, a truck. We're talking about even about warehouses doing their own thing, autonomous, working without people. We saw the case of Amazon. Everything moves itself. So anyway, in a world where everything is virtually virtual, whether it's COVID-19 or even 9/11 or Y2K, even the hurricanes that we have, all of those disruptions are telling us pay attention to a few key words: virtual, remote, distance. Don't worry about the human factor. Don't be scared that the humans will disappear from the equation. No, humans and tech will continue to collaborate together as we play a key role into the social distancing. Let's see what our two panelists have to say about it as we face together this new normal, if it is a new normal. But I'm going to take one step further and investigate that with our first presenter. I'm glad to present Nick Chubb. Nick is in London right now. Thank you for joining us so early for you. But Nick is the founder of the Maritime Innovation Research Consultancy, Titius. Nick founded the company in 2019 to serve as a source of intelligence, analysis, and research on emerging technologies within the supply chain and help industry leaders to understand and prepare for the future. He has since held senior commercial positions overseeing the launch of digital products and services in a number of organizations, including port call optimization startup, intelligent cargo systems, and the UK seafarer education charity, Maritime Society. Nick is an accomplished ultra endurance athlete. Hear me out. Having completed a 300-mile solo trek across the Arabian Peninsula and a 6 back-to-back marathon in the Sahara Desert. This guy is no joke. Nick, can you take us not into a 300-mile solo trek, but in a 20-minute trek this time in your presentation? Thank you for being with us. Take it from here.
Martin, thank you so much. And I haven't done any running for a few years, so definitely no danger of a 300-mile presentation. But let's see what we can do with 20 minutes. Just to check before we kick off, you can see the screen, right? The screen share's working okay. I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yes, Nick, all good.
Perfect. Okay. I'd like to start, if I may, with a bit of a brain teaser for people. Does anyone know what this might be? You don't need to respond. Just have a bit of a think about it. I'll give you a clue. It's made of 18-karat gold. It's actually a railway spike, and it was dug into the ground in 1869 when the railroad on the west coast of the US was connected to the railroad on the east coast of the US. And that meant for the first time it was possible to cross the continent in a matter of days instead of weeks. And what that brought with it was a whole new era of economic prosperity, economic growth, new ideas, being able to move across the continent, people being able to emigrate more easily, and ultimately a spreading out of wealth across the United States. The same thing happened when the automobile went into mass production and road networks were built. Obviously across the US, but also across Europe and much of the rest of the world. And again, it brought with it a wave of economic prosperity. It made it easier for ideas, people, and money to travel and for trade to be easier. And the same thing happened again with airplanes. Now it's possible to cross an ocean in a few hours, where previously it may have taken days, if not weeks. And once again, a massive wave of economic prosperity and the ability to trade just gets so much easier. And we see this throughout the 20th century, same with the humble shipping container, just a steel box, but we all know how important it is to world trade. And of course, the internet. Maybe the jury's out on whether the internet is wholly a good thing or a bad thing, but it's allowing me to communicate with all of you wherever you are in the world in real time by video. And we all know it's been a massively powerful tool for enabling not just trade, but prosperity and new ideas to flourish. The really interesting thing about all these technologies, it's not just that they enable better trade and better communication. It's also the speed at which they get adopted. It's getting faster and faster and faster. So it took airlines about 68 years to get to 50 million users. It took the car about 62 years. It took electricity about 50 years. And things get really exciting after the internet became invented. It took the internet about 7 years to get to 50 million users. Facebook did it in 3 years. WeChat did it in 1 year. And incredibly, Pokemon Go did it in just 19 days. So when you project out and look at the future, it makes you wonder, how long will the next great innovation take to reach 50 million or even billions of people? There was a study done recently that looked at all of the science and technology progress throughout the 20th century. So it's all the patents that recorded, academic journals, things like that. And what they found was that everything that had been achieved throughout the 100 years that made up the 20th century, it had already been achieved again during the first 14 years of the 21st century. So all of the scientific and technological achievement we made in 100 years, we achieved in 14 years from the year 2000 to 2014. And that acceleration keeps on getting quicker. I'm Nick Chubb. I'm the founder of Thetius. We're a leading source of intelligence, analysis, and research on emerging technologies within the ocean supply chain. Our main aim is to help industry leaders to understand and prepare for the future. And the way we do that is we have an innovation database that's free to use. We track actively about 600 startups and corporate innovation projects. We build market maps and reports. We track patent filings. We create private research, and we publish research in partnership with various organizations. So that's a bit about me and my background. And the things I'd like to speak to you about today is this exponential growth of technology, and ultimately what technologies are going to impact our industry the most in the next few years, and then bringing it down to the era of social distancing. How are those technologies helping us today? This is us. We're the little stick man. That's human progress, and the line. We're right at the beginning of the uptick on human progress. Exactly as I said, the last 14 years we've had 100 years worth of technological advancement, and that's going to get faster and faster and faster. For most people, though, we think in a kind of linear fashion, and obviously we can't see what's ahead of us. So it's very difficult for humans to sort of get their head around exponential growth, and we're often caught unaware by it. And actually, if you take the last 4 months as an example, coronavirus has given us a really tragic understanding of exponential growth. On April 2nd, worldwide, we crossed 1 million cases of COVID-19. Today, we're just shy of 6 million cases. And that's all happened in less than 6 months. The thing about exponential growth is it comes on in two ways. First, gradually, and then suddenly. And a lot of companies tend to get blindsided by it. We've seen that with governments and policymakers with coronavirus, but also with new technologies and disruptions to every industry. And in shipping, people think people say we're quite conservative. I personally don't believe it. I actually think we've already been through a great disruption in the last 50 years. This photo was taken in 1968. 2 years prior to that, the first container ship set sail, the IDLX set sail, a converted tanker. We all know the impact that containerization has had on the industry. A modern container ship can carry 70 times more weight per deadweight ton than a general cargo ship, and all of us understand that. But a lot of general cargo carriers throughout the latter half of the 20th century were caught unaware of it, and a lot of companies have gone out of business because of containerization. And again, it's that gradually then suddenly effect of an exponential curve, and you can see here that the growth of container ships versus general cargo ships definitely follows an exponential trend. So if we look ahead in our own industry and in our own lives, what are the exponential technologies that are going to impact us most over the next few years? There are three I'd like to talk about and give you some examples of. The first is cloud infrastructure, and I guess the first and most important thing to understand about cloud computing is that the cloud doesn't really exist. Cyberspace doesn't really exist. It's just someone else's computer, and you're renting space off it. And that gives you the ability to access that computer through the internet from anywhere in the world. So when we talk about moving to remote working, the thing that underpins that is cloud infrastructure. The next big thing is Internet of Things. And Martin made some really interesting points in his introduction about how everything seems to be moving virtual. But the really interesting thing I find about shipping is that at some point, a big heavy piece of machinery has to pick up and move a big heavy piece of cargo. And that's not going to go away. And what the Internet of Things provides us, it's really just a fancy way of saying sensors that are connected to the internet. But it provides us the infrastructure to be able to connect the physical world and the digital world. And with shipping, there's always going to be that physical element to it. And so IoT really is a gateway technology to enable us to really make the most of the transformation of the industry. And the third one, I've kind of taken two technologies and lumped them together First off is process automation, which I think will impact us in the short term. And then looking further ahead, artificial intelligence, which I think in the long term will have a big impact on the industry. Process automation is taking any kind of task or process that involves moving data around or conducting calculations on data. If it's a repetitive process, it's possible to automate it. So if you're keying in details from a bill of lading into a system over and over again, and you've got admin people doing that, it's possible to automate that, and you can free up people's time to do more high value work. Anywhere that data moves around, process automation, slowly but surely, and certainly in other industries, is serving to free up people's time and automate that. Looking further ahead, artificial intelligence is essentially just a branch of computer science that attempts to enable computers to think and learn in the same way that humans do. It probably will have the biggest impact upon humanity over the next 50 years. But in the maritime industry, we're really still at the very early days of experimenting with what it can do. So looking at the immediate crisis and the immediate era of social distancing, I thought it'd be interesting to shine a light on some of the interesting innovations that are being made available to the industry from startups and innovators around the world. First, looking at that cloud infrastructure part. This dashboard was developed by a company called Geolect. They're based in the UK, and they take data from multiple sources and map it and make it possible to layer different types of data on top of geographical information. And what they've created in partnership with the International Group of P&I Clubs is a dashboard that for everywhere in the world can show you where the coronavirus hotspots are, but also where the disruptions to ports may be, what are the specific requirements within each port. And again, because it's cloud infrastructure, it's built on cloud infrastructure, it can be accessed from anywhere, whether you're physically in the port or you're working from home or you're on your mobile or you're on your laptop. It's possible to access this. It's available for free. I think if you Google IGP&I COVID-19 dashboard, it'll take you to it, and it's a fantastic source of information. The next one you can see here is by Port Exchange. They're a new startup that have been spun out of the Port of Rotterdam, and they have a cloud-based port call collaboration and port call optimization platform. When you have a ship coming in, obviously there are so many different parties that are involved in that process. You've got the ship itself, you've got the terminal, you've got the pilots, the tugs, the linesmen. This brings all of those players together into one platform. Again, it's cloud-based, so everyone can access it from their own devices. As long as they can connect to the internet, they can get onto this platform, and everyone can use it to collaborate and plan on port call activity. And the idea is that it helps everyone to optimize their time and optimize their assets. And again, through the coronavirus crisis, with so many ports around the world having to move to remote operation and remote working, they've made this available for free to anyone who wants to use it throughout the crisis. Similarly, a great startup based out of Belgium called DocFlow. They're a container tracking startup who've built a cloud-based platform again, and recognizing that detention and demurrage is certainly a problem for forwarders and shippers. They've made a detention and demurrage dashboard available for free. Again, cloud-based, you can access it from a phone, you can access it at home, you can access it wherever you are in the world, and it makes a difference having access to services like these for free while all of this goes on. Looking at the IoT, this is an innovation from a company called Rombit. They've been building wearable technology for the maritime industry for some time. Normally it's about worker safety, lone worker protection, or man overboard scenarios. They've built a social distancing radius into their wearable, which means that if you come within 2 meters or 1.5 meters of another worker while throughout the port, both of the wristbands will vibrate, and you can take a step back and maintain safety. And it's just as well as all the other safety features they have, it's just a smart way of making it easy for people while protecting their privacy to maintain social distancing. Also, on the IoT space, there's a great company called Traxons. They count a few of the large carriers among their investors, and they've built the device you can see in front of you there. Sits on a container. It mainly works through mobile technology and works as a track and trace for the container. It also collects things like humidity data, light, temperature, whether the container has been opened or not. And they've just launched a special pricing for the industry during the coronavirus crisis of $35 to track a dry container anywhere in the world. So that the idea is that it's to help companies get a better handle on their supply chains throughout the crisis. And looking at process automation, these guys aren't doing anything specific for coronavirus that I'm aware of, but they're a great example of process automation done well. It's a company called Optimize, and they're a cargo claims handling platform. And effectively, the entire cargo claims process, they're able to, first of all, make paperless, and second, make it much more automated, much more focused on automated decisions based on business logic, and ultimately reducing the time from an incident happening to a claim actually being able to be paid out. Those are some of the interesting things that are happening in the industry today. I think it's also important to look a little bit further ahead, and I mentioned artificial intelligence, I think, is an area that's going to impact the industry hugely in the coming years. This is the Port of Antwerp in Belgium. There's been a project that's ongoing there to put to train an artificial intelligence algorithm throughout the port. And the way they've done it is they've taken CCTV feeds, hours after hours of them, they've taken still images, and they've used that to train, to manually sort of tag what different parts of the port infrastructure are, to train an algorithm to learn what those things look like. And what this enables them to do in time is that they can, rather than have humans going around and manually inspecting fenders and bollards and whether ladders are safe, they can do it based on video feeds automatically. And instead what happens is you can just have a notification that something needs attention or that something doesn't look quite right, or you can use it as a way to map what berth space looks like, whether a ship is alongside or not. And zooming that out, you can use it to actually track traffic throughout the port, not just based on radar and AIS and the eyeball, but also based on video feeds that are automatically tracking assets, and also providing things like security through the port. This sort of stuff, exactly as Martin said, it's not about replacing humans, but it's about working in partnership with them and freeing up their time to be able to do more high value work. It's, I think, pretty transformative. One other example from me that I quite like, and then I'll shut up. This is a company called CSA. They have developed. You can use their platform through a webcam, like I'm speaking to you through. They've developed a system that, by tracking your eye movements and the dilation of your pupils, they can tell whether a seafarer is fatigued, drunk, ill, incapacitated, unable to properly do their watch. And the way it works is you sort of follow the dots around the screen, and then it will tell you whether you're ready for duty or not. This was developed in partnership with the Lloyd's Register Foundation. We know that fatigue is a massive issue across the entire industry, and systems like this just serve to provide a triple check on top of all the other work that goes on. That's it for me in terms of industry examples, but I thought I'd bring it back to this picture of the railroad pioneers as I close things off. I think you can tell from the look on everyone's face that they know they're onto something pretty transformational. They know they're onto something hugely important. And I think when we consider the impact that technology is going to have over the next 5, 10, 15 years on our industry, and the goals that we've set ourselves for transforming the industry and making it sustainable, I think we're all in a very similar position. So let's make the most of it and embrace that pioneering spirit. Fingers crossed, we'll come out of it the other side much better off. that's me. There's my details on the screen if you want to get in touch, but I'm not going anywhere. Very happy to take questions at the end.
Nick, before we move on, can you repeat the name of that software that reads your eye, looking for fatigue or stuff like that?
Yeah, Sensei.
Okay. We want to take that to our viewers later on. If you can get it to me via the WhatsApp,
I can,
so we can put
yeah,
it, okay?
and I can share these slides
Thank
and
you.
also share the names of all the companies I've mentioned. I'm very happy to do that.
Muted, Martin.
Martin, you're on mute.
Yes, sorry. I was saying, I know it's in the afternoon in London right now. Don't go away. We'll get back to you. Excellent presentation, Nick.
Thanks very
Appreciate
much.
that. Guys, we're going to move on to home in Miami. I hope Miles is in Miami today because he's all over the place. But anyways, at least we can see it on the screen. I'm glad to present Miles, our friend right across the street, just for the sake of it. Nick, thank you. Stay here. And I get my screen fixed. And I'm going to move on right now. Miles, welcome again. Miles is a shipping and logistics SaaS executive, SaaS software as a service. He has an extensive background in launching early stage ventures and 2 acquisitions exits under his belt for the both startups he has worked for. Currently, he's the co-founder and CEO of CargoLogic, a modern SaaS platform that helps independent, small to medium-sized freight forwarders, customs brokers, and their shippers to better stay in sync, collaborate, and improve remote work. Did I say remote work? Yes. We're going to find out. As employee number 3 at Octopi, where I actually met him a long time ago, Octopi was acquired by market leader Navis, as many of you know. Octopi took Miles into a new level. And now at CargoLogic, which is an enterprise, that was an enterprise terminal operator, a startup, he led go-to-market activities across 5 countries there. Today at CargoLogic, Miles is going to share with us what they can do for our market, for the shippers and ourselves as we work from home. Miles' other complementary roles include Global Trade and Logistics Committee member in the Miami-Dade Beacon Council, the Port of Miami Propeller Club advisor, among others. Miles has also a passion for people and a talent for building strong relationships. He earned his degree in the University of Miami, Herbert Business School, as a concentration in business management and organization, with minors in accounting and finance. Miles, take us there. Welcome.
Thanks, Martin. I appreciate the kind words and the kind introduction. Thank you, Malika and Mark and the rest of the team also for having me here today and giving us the opportunity and giving CargoLogic the opportunity to speak as well. So super grateful for that, as well. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen for you guys, and please confirm that you can.
Miles, can you wait for me for 1 second?
Sure.
Like I said, happens in the movies, happens in real life.
Okay.
If you all go back to the Q&A chat, we have posted a poll. I'm going to give you 5 seconds, everybody, to help us get there. We're collecting some data from all of you as it relates to what's the future like from technology in the years to come. So we posted a poll there, and essentially it's one question: did the COVID-19 crisis cause you to increase your investment in new technologies? Great investment, moderate investment, or low investment? I'll give you 5 seconds for everybody to start clicking, and then Miles, give me 5 seconds, and then you continue, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, Martin.
All right, Miles, go ahead and do it.
All right, sounds good, Martine. Thanks so much. And I think Nick's presentation was very good. It gives you really a high level perspective, of where technology is, how quickly it's evolving and changing, and how it's really hard for us to grasp that as humans. And often, unfortunately and fortunately, it takes a little bit of a push sometimes, to take us to this next level. So that's kind of what I'm going to be talking to you guys a little bit about today, and mainly kind of dialing down a little bit more specifically on what we're doing and sort of what we've learned from the freight forwarding and the customs brokerage market, building up Cargo Logic. So as you guys know, and I think you guys probably all know this better than me, in the last 10 to 15 years, not so much has changed, right, in the freight forwarding or brokerage world, especially if you're on the commercial teams or in operations teams. Like, you're walking into your office, you're opening up your computer or looking at your phone, and you've got hundreds of emails that you're trying to comb through while still trying to take care of your customers and respect the promises that you made to them. You're responding to tons of text messages, trying to deliver the next level of service, trying to respond to your customer every single time, maybe 10 times, that they're asking you, hey, where's my cargo? And you're also probably getting too many calls, as well, just about basic things, right, that I think can be answered through other means and other technologies pretty quickly. So, you take the world that forwarders have kind of been living in for the last 10 or 15 years, and we did an analysis, and it takes roughly 30 to 50 emails to move one container. And based on the fact that 802 million TEU were transported in 2019, and much of it, right, powered by brokers and forwarders, approximately, at least, right, this is kind of a conservative estimate, at least 25 billion emails were exchanged to coordinate, this global container trade, right? So, obviously, those types of emails, no one really loves digging through 30 or 40, thread emails, having to navigate through different, inboxes, whatever it may be, right? So it creates a big challenge for the business as it runs today. And that's actually a big driver of the problem, right? It's not that, there's anything particularly wrong with, doing business the way it's always been done. But I challenge you that, with this new era, and going back to your comment, Martine, about this being the new normal, I mean, being able to work remotely and unfortunately in a pandemic is now considered an optimized business, right? So I think we're now shifting to this new normal where optimizing for this sort of remote work and using technology to free up some of this time and these resources is extremely valuable. So through the hundreds of interviews that we've done so far as we built this application, we found that freight forwarders are still struggling to adapt, right, to evolving customer demands, the Amazon effect, increased competition. And if you kind of think about the reasons why this is the case, we kind of go in a little bit in depth here, right, where you have dwindling margins and no economies of scale. So if you're an independent, small to medium forwarder or broker, or shipper, right, who's relying on just 3 or 4 forwarders, you're kind of stuck, if you will, because you can offer a better rate than DHL and FedEx and these companies that have, humongous tech budgets and teams, right? So that's the first thing, the core of the business. Offering a competitive rate is going to be really hard, to do as an independent player. And the ones that we found that have succeeded the most are those that have found a niche that have those loyal client bases. But unless, they really kind of diversified and double down on that, we're finding that a lot of these forwarders and custom brokers, are in a bad position, right? And we're hoping to help that. They're also threatened by tech-first entrants. And what I mean by that is, maybe some of you have heard of Flexport. If you have not, definitely, pay attention to them. Freight OS is another one. And these are digital-first forwarder marketplaces, right? So they are designed actually to cut out the middleman by design. So, on top of, the challenges, that you're dealing with COVID and the dwindling margins competing with these bigger companies and tech budgets, you're also dealing with new competitors that are coming out of Silicon Valley, right? Out of these massive investments that are being made into these companies that are changing the landscape. It's very hard to keep up. And then you add, the fact that shipping lines are actually starting to take direct bookings now. You're starting to see that, across the board, right? Maersk has started doing it, CMA, CGM, Evergreen as well more recently. They're trying to take these direct bookings, right? And necessarily bypassing, their existing network. So these problems have kind of created a challenge, and the opportunity exists really, right? And going back to the theme of this presentation and the programming today is it's the power of tech, right? Where today only 6% of the largest freight forwarders and ocean carriers, right? Even though, they are big, the reality is they're not really fully optimizing and taking advantage of tech, right? So there's still an opportunity. There's room for you to actually capitalize ahead of some of these companies. And where you will probably find that, that capitalization is coming from the customer experience, really thinking about and analyzing and taking best practices and applying them, and making sure that there's a customer experience that helps the freight forwarder and their customers, right? And the challenges that we found, tied to this customer experience, we found it across the board. Whether you're a bigger company or a smaller company, yes, you might have some systems that can take care of this, but we kind of found a universal challenge that we kind of siloed here into 4 categories. So the first part is the pain that it takes to make a booking, right? Going through the quoting process, the booking process, not having all the details, having to fix something, a roll booking, right? Whatever it might be, roll ship. You're going to have to deal with all of these variables that kind of are being thrown at you all the time, right? It's the nature of this industry. You couple that with the lack of tracking of being available to that customer. They're used to Amazon. They're used to getting timelines. They're used to getting the notification that your package is 2 stops away, and used to the email notifications. But the reality is, in our industry, in our space, this is still something to be desired that we're working towards. And I think there are solutions out there that can help with that. And then you combine that also with fragmented communication, right? Just the amount of time wasted responding to phone calls, texts, emails that are just very redundant, that are the same things over and over again. That actually takes away from the power of your relationships and your power as human beings to connect, right? You're actually spending less time building the core relationships and with those loyal customers, than responding to, hey, where's my cargo 5 or 10 times, which may seem like great service. But the reality is, if you can, save time on their side, right, on the customer side, to contact you, to make a quote or to make a booking or to send you a message about something, that's actually value that's being produced on both sides of the equation, right? So you think about a lot of operating systems that are in place today. Many of them are just kind of providing value internally. They're not really providing value externally, right? So that's kind of this new movement and this new trend with customer experience, is that we want you to do your operations, but we also want you to do them with your partner, right? Do them with your shipper, do them with your forwarder, with your customs broker, with a more modern system. So the solution that we kind of built and came up with was Cargo Logic that Martine mentioned. We're focused on helping independent, small to medium-sized freight forwarders, brokers better stay in sync, work remotely, and improve those remote operations also with their shippers and clients. The shipper experience is, like I said, is also extremely important. And right now it's actually perfect, right? Because, having a tool that's going to give you notifications, that's going to streamline the process, that is always on, right? Even when you're sleeping, or if your customer is in a different time zone, that enables you to kind of optimize your business, where you're not waiting, for someone in a different time zone to get back to you, or you're not trying to get them, when they're not in a meeting, to get the full details of the quote that you need, right? So the idea is to kind of provide multimodal tracking here, as you see, a global tracking dashboard and a logistics timeline that kind of mimics Amazon, and giving those notifications to your own customers as a forwarder or broker, sharing documents, right? Rather than trying to search through, my Google Drive, or is it in your Dropbox? We actually have that directly in the application, where both parties can just drop unlimited, documents, pictures, images, contracts, POs, whatever it might be, directly into storage, and that storage is actually combined with messaging, so you actually have a full audit trail and a full history, right? Going back to your comment also, Martine, about a paperless system, we actually keep records of everything, right? So every communication that's sent, every document that's put into our system, you can go back, you can create, you can search for it, and we know that there's value just in that alone. And the majority of today's forwarders and brokers, right, especially on this independent side, are not taking advantage of that, right? And those things are all very important. And also, going back to what I was saying about quoting and booking as well, it ends up becoming a very burdensome process, especially if you've got to modify something that's just about to become a booking or is already a booking. So I quickly want to just show you guys a demo here. I'm just going to talk you through it. So this is actually the dashboard. You're looking at your active shipments there, so your customer can actually log in here. And I'm looking at the forwarder screen, right? So I actually can filter through all my customers here, and your customer is actually going to have a similar complementary screen. So they're actually joining you. It's almost like a Microsoft Teams or a Slack for this industry. It lives on top of your existing systems. We're not trying to replace anything that you already have, but you can start chats with your customers, your clients, with your internal team. Like I said, you can see all your shipments, you can see your quotes, bookings there. You can filter through customers there on the left. And then you can also create a quote, right? If you're sleeping at 3 a.m., your customer has a very similar format where they can quickly, submit a quote for you as well. And you can get a notification via email that's also going to show up in the little, bell icon there at the top right. And you'll get an email as well where you click on it, it'll take you directly into the application. So now you're going to be able to respond quicker, faster, to their requests. And what's great about our system too is that once you have these quotes sort of preset and placed into the system, your customer, they don't need to contact you anymore. They can actually just keep on booking and booking and booking, right? Creating the shipper instruction, in our platform that you can then hand off, right, to your own booking system, right? So, so here you can see, the booking screen, the line items there on the right, and then if there's any sort of action required, or if there's any exception or something that occurred, our system alerts both parties and lets them know about it, right? So you're not trying to track someone down, and get them on the phone or send them an email and wait for them to respond to your email. Instead, you can actually send them a message right away, notify them, and say, listen, I let you know about this, as soon as it happened. And I delivered that next level of service. And here you can see the documents and the messages as well that kind of follow you throughout the history of your organization, right? So you'll always have, even the beginning conversation of, hey, I need to move a box, from here to Shanghai, right? Whatever it might be. And so, closing out the presentation, we're on a mission. We're a mission-driven company, which I think is very important. And our mission is to facilitate trade, foster collaboration, and support the economic well-being of independent forwarders, shippers, brokers, right, and their customers. And our team, as Martin mentioned, we have SaaS expertise. But what's really cool is my co-founder Luis. He's actually a third-generation shipping family in Ecuador. They're also investors in our company and supporting us, as well. And he started the business at age 12. So we're kind of merging, the best of both worlds, to bring this venture to life. And we're currently in a private beta. And we need your help, right? That's kind of why we need you. We're trying to find more private beta testers. It's completely free for the next month or so. We want to get your feedback, your thoughts and opinions. We want to continue improving the product with the market, with CSA, with the Caribbean, with our region, just like we did, at Octopi. I think, there's a ton of value and a ton of impact that we can provide right now to one another as a community using software. And not just CargoLogic, but more collaboration software. Everyone here already has Zoom. People are downloading Microsoft Teams. They're trying out Slack for the first time. And while you're reconfiguring all these processes, I also, want to challenge you to the business owners that are thinking that, hey, now's actually the time that I want to relax and be careful. Now's actually the time that you kind of want to make these sort of investments, reconfigure your company, reset, right? Because your best practice, right, is that, while you're already taking all these activities and buying all these new tools, you might as well stack other technologies on top of them and get everyone reconfigured at the same time. It might take a little bit of time to train now, but going forward, longer term, this is going to impact you right now, medium term and longer term, because it gives you a competitive advantage, against, some of the forces that are at play, trying to take, and take your piece of the pie. So that being said, that concludes my presentation, Martin. Any questions, that you guys might have, if we have time, happy to answer them. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me online. You can text Martin, WhatsApp. He'll forward you my number. I'm here, here in Miami, and if I can support you guys, if we can support you, even outside of CargoLogic, obviously, CSA are friends of ours. So please let us know. Thank you, Martin.
Miles, wonderful. As expected. I expected that kind of delivery. So thank you very much. You have disrupted already a few processes in the sector twice, and I am sure you're going to continue doing it the same. Fantastic. And also to Nick as well. Great presentation. Stay with me for a moment. I think we have some time to, before we wrap up things, we're going to go into a Q&A kind of moment, but our GM will post another poll. We want you to take a look at it for another 5 seconds before I conclude. The poll is going to be posted now, and please give it 5 seconds. I'll shut up now. I'll give you 5 seconds. All right, I'm gonna continue because I want to get you out on time, under an hour. Fantastic numbers, guys. We're gonna share this poll and the other one via our secretariat. That probably, I think, Malika is gonna send an email to everybody with the results. Thank you for helping us out, figure the future out. I think we're gonna go through the questions right now, and I'm going to start by asking our Vice President, Mr. Mark Sampson, the first question. Complex IT requirements. Give me 1 second. Went there. Complex IT requirements. If exporters and importers are required to submit data to multiple government agencies, they entail extra IT costs. Also, these costs become cost of trade, making the trade less attractive. Who will be covering these varying costs?
Well, I do believe that an answer to that question will be through single window. Once within the Caribbean and other countries, once single window is available, you can enter your data, and that is sent to dispersed to different agencies throughout that need that information. We at the CSA, I mean, we are always making sure that our members are aware of what's going on, and we try and make sure that everything is done to the best of our ability and to theirs.
Thank you, Mark. And I know in the CSA, I know that you guys, the board of directors, you guys meet frequently. So I want to encourage all the viewers and our guests today, whenever you have a need in the trade, in your specific company, as a region, do you want the CSA to advocate in anything for you, please do not hesitate to reach out to the secretary at the CSA, and I am sure that their committees will get to you. The second question is probably for Nick one more time. Can you share again, I think you did already, the social distance 2M Seafarers tool?
Sure. It's a company called Rumbit. If you go to rumbit.be, because they're a Belgian company, you'll see all about it. And I'll do a little plug. All of the companies I mentioned are available. We have profiles for them on our innovation database. There's about 600 companies on there. They're all doing really cool stuff, and it's available for free. You can sign up for free to get access to it. So if you're interested in anything you've seen, by all means sign up and see what we're sharing, because there's, for every one I've mentioned, there's 50 that I couldn't.
All right, beautiful, Nick. Appreciate that. And again, to all of our viewers, you will get these presentations later on. And I think RGM is recording also the webinar, so you're going to be able to get back to that name as Nick delivered his message. I'm going to go to another question from our friend Philip Gray. Nick, do you have some idea of the percentage increase of online business bookings finalized within the new situation?
I think it's a little bit early to say. I have seen press announcements from some of the big carriers that they've seen use of their direct online booking increase a lot over the last 2 or 3 months. But in terms of getting numbers for the entire industry, it's not something we've done. But I imagine the likes of JOC will have data on that, I would have thought, in the next few months. But my hunch would be that it will have increased for sure.
All right, and there's tons of information in the trade, Philippe. We'll probably try to get to you and all of you. Maybe Malika, you have seen a lot of posts from Amazon that, you know, online shopping have increased 49% a year, 8% of internet usage in some part of Latin America. People are increasingly using more internet online shopping because they're home and they feel secure. All of those data, I'm sure, I'm gonna leave it to Malika and the team to probably try to get some market data for you. I think I have more time for a couple of other questions, and I'm gonna go to. I think this is a comment. True, Mark. Single window and PCS are the tools for sharing and exchanging information. The added value is tremendous. In some ports, the added value is calculated to be 258 million per year. I think that's EC maybe. From Hans Rook. Thank you, Hans, for sharing. I'm going to go to another question from Sandra Rains. Do you take tug assistance on environment also in consideration in this whole technology shift? Tugs plays also a role in transportation logistics. From Sandra in Curaçao. Nick, do you want to take that, or Mark?
I'm happy to make some comments there. I used to be involved in a port call optimization startup, and not just tugs, but I mean tugs were a major aspect. But getting all of the port players on the same page and using the same platform is difficult. But obviously, without tug assistance, ships aren't going anywhere. So absolutely a crucial piece of the puzzle, and the same goes for linesmen, the same goes for pilots. Those sorts of platforms, Port Exchange, for example, are doing that really well, and there are other platforms. There's a Marlin Smart Port platform as well that's been developed by Ion Geophysical that allow that kind of collaborative environment that can include all of the port players, because if you miss one stakeholder off, then none of it works. So yeah, absolutely, tugs are a crucial part of the picture.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hans, thank you for clarifying. It is 258 million euros. I didn't know where you were, so I assumed that it wasn't EC. So it is yours. I'm going to pose this question to both Nick and Miles. So get ready, both of you, 30 seconds. In my recent experience on global trade and even regional trade, companies are hesitant to develop ecosystem business models because they are afraid to share information. What are other challenges, and how do you propose overcoming such challenges on a regional scale? Nick, go first, and then Miles, 30 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. Fundamental challenge, change. Often it's not the technology, it's actually, it's changing people's habits and changing behaviors. We tend to find that the best way to do it is to build something that works with someone's current process, or improves it 10x, rather than trying to build something completely new that forces them to completely change what they're doing. I think what Miles has built is impressive because it sits on top of the current systems, and that's a much better way to try and get stakeholders on board. Beautiful.
Miles, what's your take?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question, Shem, and thank you, Nick and Martin. I think it's just that, right? Like, one of the things I learned so much from Octopi, right, where you're replacing an entire port terminal operating system that every stakeholder is getting into, is that you need to design a process from the very beginning, right? You need to know the process, you need to understand the process and design the process, right? Not reacting, but actually having an active plan that you're presenting, to the key stakeholders. Right now, as a startup, it's a lot easier because I can build in processes that force us, and we make sure that we're sitting with the customers, understanding their challenges, but we're asking for them, like, show me your process, show me what you do, show me your documentation, show me the entities you got to interface with, the reports that you need. And when you take that deeper dive and you spend the time to understand that business, right, you can often match that with technology and either take care of what the customer needs or find like a quote unquote middle ground, which is like an element of change management where like you're meeting that customer that does not want to use a brand new system, that wants to continue using text messages because you're giving them some level of value, right? So that's on us, and that's on the, whoever the vendor is or the solution. It's on them to actually figure out how to hook, your customers on the system, and that's what we're working on.
Thank you, Miles. Appreciate it. Guys, I lied. I was not under an hour. I was actually 1 minute over the hour. So with that, I thank everybody. Thank you for being here with us. Before I close, I want to turn it over to our GM, who's going to give you an announcement. Milaika, thank you for having me. Good luck in the future.
Thank you, Martin. I hope you all enjoyed the presentation of these two gentlemen. Thank you, Mark, for being here. Nick and Miles, thank you for an interesting presentation. And Martine, a big thank you for a great job done as a moderator. Before I close this webinar, I'm so pleased to invite you to our next one. So let me share you the screen so you can see what we will have in 2 weeks.
While you all look at the screen, I'll just like to thank all of you for partaking. We had 102 guests on, which was very good. And Miles and Nick, thank you very much for a very good presentation on behalf of CSA.
Thank you for having us. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, had fun. Thank you guys. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, so before I close, as I told you, we have our next webinar will be on June 17. And as topic, we will have the new era of the cruise industry after COVID-19. To cover this topic, we will have 6 panelists: Julianne Burrows, Mr. Richard Vogel of Pullmantur, Mr. Brian Salerno of CLIA, Mr. Hernan Ayala of Shipping Association of Puerto Rico, Mr. Alejandro Caicedo of Tourism of Puerto Rico, and Mr. Gilbert Salcedo of ProColombia. This was my important announcement. Thank you for joining us, and we see you next time or over 2 weeks at our webinar on Zoom. Thank you so much for joining.